Good morning, Veli.
Very good morning to you, Gwena. How are you doing, my brother?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
So I'll tell you a story about Veli, guys, and please Google him and tell me. So I bumped into Veli somewhere else, ne? And then everybody's like, we saw your brother in the building. I promise you. And like almost like 10 people in that building, they're like, is that guy your brother? So apparently he looks like me, or I look like him. Have you been told that too, Veli?
Yeah, that has been, something that has been, it's been a story of our lives.
It was so weird because like almost everyone's like, no, you have to see this guy.
Has Daddy been to Nigeria?
Oh, wow. So close your microphone. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about, Veli. Thank you so much for coming through to talk to us. Tell us a little bit about what you do as a mind coach and about the books that you've written, especially the latest one.
Thank you very much, Gwena, for that. So there are basically three things that I do. The first one, I speak to people and the audiences to create awareness of what human behavior is all about, and how do we, become the best versions of ourselves. And the second thing that I do is to run workshops on that. Especially for corporates, and also for private settings where I get to speak and empower people as well. Because talking is just like you're making that awareness. But when you're running workshops, you're empowering them, giving them the tools to be able to to bring out that and to build teams and to help themselves, especially as leaders as well, to be able to lead better. And then the third thing that I do coaching. So the coaching that I do is based on how the brain works, which is just something different from just the, the traditional way of just sitting down and coaching people. So those are the main three things that I do. And then I've authored 5 books. So the first book is You're Born to Win. The second book is Your Dream is Calling You. And then the third book is Set Your Soul on Fire. And then the fourth book is Switch On Your Personal Power. And then the fifth book is called The Neuroscience of Effective Leadership. Because that's where I believe. So in this one, I bring in the science, in terms of what really drives human behavior. Because my background is in engineering. So in engineering, I was taught that you've got to understand the source of everything that you do, because you cannot change anything without you understanding how it works, in terms of the first principles. So this is what this book is about then. It's based on data, because everyone is just talking about things. For an example, they talk about the fact that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And people get to a certain stage in their lives and they say, what's the use, because I'm old now, there's nothing else I can do. It is what it is. So science over the years has shown us that the brain, or the human brain, keeps on growing until one dies. It's based on how you use it. So I'm unpacking those kinds of theories and demystifying those myths that we end up being socialized to believe.
But talk to me then about the as you say, the book explores the intersection of neuroscience and leadership. Yes. Because then it goes deeper than just that. It's more about brain science and brain power and all that. Yes.
First of all, so when I talk about transforming minds and leaders from a place of mental darkness to mental light. So when I talk about mental darkness, I'm simply talking about the state of being uninformed. So in this instance, I'm talking about being uninformed about how your brain works, how you really function, because we just tend to follow our emotions without really understanding what's happening in the brain. So when I talk about now the neuroscience is a study that looks at the human, the nervous system. So that looks at what we call the central nervous system, where we're talking about the spinal cord and the brain. But its focus is on the brain. So when you look at how the brain works, because the brain that we are carrying is very ancient, and it works the same way as it did about 3 million years ago. So that's why I normally say when I talk to audiences that we are carrying an ancient brain in a high-tech world. And as a result, the brain doesn't have the fast processing speed. And the brain is basically wired and has been, through evolution, has mastered three things. The first thing that it has on its priority is like a pyramid or a hierarchy. The top priority of the brain is to ensure that we are safe. It's safety. So it operates on a rule that better safe than sorry. That's why people end up doing things and later regret them, because they did not really think about them. They were driven by this first priority. The second one is what we call energy consumption. So it saves energy. The brain, that's why people enjoy being lazy, lazing around. It's what the brain pushes you to do, because it doesn't have so much energy to do everything. So it wants to save energy. Then the third one is about thinking. So thinking is actually coming third, on this, when you talk about this hierarchy. So you hear people saying, what were you thinking? Why are you not thinking? We are logical. We are not logical beings. Science has shown us that we are emotional beings. We become emotional before we are actually logical. So that's very important. That's why we act before we tend to think, until you are relaxed. So now that's just giving a little bit of science around it. So, and on also the two parts that are very important that I need to state about the brain is that there are two main brain areas or brain parts that are working like in a seesaw format. One is the thinking brain, the other one is an emotional brain. So when the thinking brain, when you are focused and you are really thinking, the emotional brain gets suppressed. And when you are emotional, the thinking brain gets suppressed. That's why when you are emotional, once you become emotional about something, you stop thinking, because that's how the brain functions. You can't do all those two things at the same time. When one is online, the other one is offline. So that's exactly what happens when, for an example, in the workplace, you cannot have someone to be really thinking about something and being creative when someone is angry or when someone is fearful. That's what I'm trying to bring to leaders in particular, to say you can't lead like that, like the traditional way of leading, where we are forcing people or we are intimidating people to be creative. It's not. This is in this economy here that we are in. We are talking about the thinking economy. We are paid to think, and when you are intimidated, you can't think.
It's very interesting that earlier on we were talking about the whole thing of thinking earlier on in the first hour, but we don't have much time to dwell on to it, because there was accusations that a lot of us do not think. We just do things on purpose. But I want to touch on the light inside. Which is something that you mentioned, that the best gift you can give yourself to discover the light within you. When you find that light inside you, you get to the core of who you are. You discover your ultimate purpose, and which is just to be who you are. You don't have to take ayahuasca for it.
Yeah, no, very true. So when you talk about this issue of purpose, I love it, because everyone is just throwing it around, that terminology of purpose. But what exactly is purpose? So in my research and in what I've done, which has led me to do what I do as well, I never thought I would do this. Purpose, first of all, is progressive. What might have been your purpose 15 years ago may not be your purpose now. And what may have been your purpose 10 years ago may not be your purpose right now. So purpose is something that is progressive. And when you find it demands a lot of work and focus for you. But what is nice about purpose is that it helps you focus. You are no longer, like checking or chasing everything. I normally use this analogy that when you find purpose, you become like a sniper. A sniper, is someone who's focusing on something. It doesn't look at everything else. It's looking at that target. So we normally say that with a sniper, one bullet, one kill. But if you're a machine gunner, you're like someone who doesn't have a purpose. You're just shooting at everything. You're making noise, but you're not hitting anything. So purpose helps you to focus. So what it does then, when you talk about purpose, there are three things. One study, from research has indicated that when you look at a 4-year-old kid, he asks on average of 250 questions a day. But the minute you start school kills that, because they are pushing curriculum. there's no time for answering questions, but you have to have time to memorize for exams. So we are programmed to memorize, examine for exams throughout our lives. You go to university, if you don't pass exams, it means you are said to be stupid or not to be smart. So who doesn't want to be smart? And all of us want to look good in front of other people. And that's one of the core human behavior, need that we need to fulfill. So to find there for yourself, we need to go back and accept curiosity as the key element of you as a person. Because we have people who are highly educated, but unfortunately they're not highly educated. They are highly memorized in terms of passing exams. But when it comes to thinking and connecting with that thing that is them, because it was beaten out of them throughout their lives. So the minute you go back and become more curious, because curiosity is the key element of finding yourself. Because as a kid, there are things that you were inclined to do. You were very passionate about doing certain things. You were free. You were a free soul, but they beat that out of you. Then the second one, once you have picked up those curiosity things, you need to write them down. All the things that you are curious about and that you'd like to do. And then the second thing is passion. Those things that you are passionate about. What is it that makes you lose sense of time? That when you do it, you feel like, wow, I've lost sense of time. I've even forgotten that I'm hungry. I've forgotten that, I'm angry on something. So those two things, they lead to purpose. The intersection of things that you are curious about and you are passionate about, they lead to purpose, because purpose is that one thing that is linked to your natural strengths that you get to do. For me, I did engineering, for an example, and I did projects, but ultimately I kept on asking myself, that's why it is said that life is about self-discovery. And I kept on asking myself, but is there anything else to do beyond this? And now what I'm doing now, what I've found over the past 10 years, it's me. It's exactly what I was meant to do. But I was led to do other things because I had to make money. I had to look like other people. So purpose is that thing that is uniquely you. It's something that sets you apart. So the brain says to you when you find it, it says, thank you very much. Come, let me give you a hug for that. And you become yourself. But unfortunately, that's why I love the words that were said, by a guy, and he said, to be yourself in a world that constantly tries to make you something else is the greatest achievement. So that's where we need to be ourselves, even though people can call you names. Because when you are able to do something that is uniquely you, that gives you peace, you become unstoppable, Gwena.
Yeah. Veli, unfortunately, we are out of time, but I think we will have more conversations around this. Quickly, for people that want to find more about you and what you do and your books, where and how do they do that?
Veli Ndaba, the NeuroEngineer, is found on all social media, platforms. On Instagram, you go Veli Ndaba, the NeuroEngineer, and then you go on Facebook is the same thing. You go for the same thing on even TikTok. You go to LinkedIn, and then we've got a website as well, which is velindaba.com.
Veli, thank you so much for coming through to speak to us. Appreciate your time and your insight.
Thank you so much, Gwen.
Veli Ndaba, who is a neuroscience engineer, talking to us about his latest book and also just about getting that light within.